Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of my Space and Sky themed playthrough, where only weapons, armours, and accessories relating to space and the sky are allowed. Last time we beat Moonlord, plunging us into the most difficult part of the game yet. We've got some seriously challenging bosses to attempt. Providence, the Devourer of Gods, Yaren, the Exomex, and Supreme Calamitas being the major ones. Now for something rather important regarding the rules for this challenge. Previously, we've been allowed to use items if they contain a crafting material that is heavily space-themed, such as fallen stars or essences of sunlight. However, given this would validate more post-Moonlord items than I'd like, I have decided to take away that rule for the rest of the challenge. Was this a mistake? Only time will tell, my friend. Only time will tell. With the crafting rule gone, I now have some empty accessory slots with nothing really good to fill them with. Luckily, I knew of some pretty good ones to use, but accessories come last. Weapons and armours are top priority. With a huge stash of Luminite collected, I made my first massive upgrade, Solar Armour. Not only does it provide melee and defensive bonuses, but it gives me my first and only dash. Although I can't use the dash if I get hit too many times in a row, it's the best I have. Speaking of which, Solar Armour itself is the best I have. The Luminite armour sets are literally my only post-Moonlord armours I can use. Just let that sink in. Lost at exactly what to do, I decided to grind paladins in the dungeon for the paladin's hammer, so I could make the stellar contempt. However, given I currently had no weapon upgrades to make the grinding easier, I quickly headed home. Since Rogue had the Celestial Reaper from the Bandit, I decided to switch up my setup for a bit with the Empyrean armor. And before you say that's not space related, I searched it up. It literally is. While I was home, I also made the Solar Wings, which I forgot to craft earlier, as well as the Moonstone Crown, which I'm gonna admit really didn't do anything, but that's okay, it's better than an empty slot. After taking the time to get geared up for grinding, the first paladin I killed dropped the hammer, which was very nice, apart from the fact that it invalidated the time I spent to make this easier. Since it took so little time, I decided to stay in the dungeon to get the paladin's shield, which I'll need for later. To craft the paladin's hammer all the way up to the stellar contempt, I needed ashes of Calamity that dropped from Calamitist. I will say, it felt kind of weird fighting Calamitist for the first time after defeating Moonlord. It's supposed to be fought pre-Plantera. Ashes acquired. The Contempt needed Galactica singularities, so I decided to get the fragments the easy way and fight Deus. Well, the quote-unquote easy way. Can't believe I forgot to craft the Stellar Striker. This should make it much easier. Now, let me show you why I wanted the Stellar Contempt. Jokes aside, I actually did get the Stellar Contempt specifically for Astrum Deus. You see, there's this certain difficulty mode that was added in 1.5, Malice Mode. It makes bosses, kinda unbearable to fight on tier, but with great rewards if you do. What I'm looking for is the Malice exclusive Hide of Astrum Deus, which provides true melee bonuses as well as lots of stars both on enemy hits and when the player is hit. Surely Malice Mode Astrum Deus isn't that hard, right? Okay then. The hide is mine. Goodbye, Hallowed Rune, you won't be missed. Now that I had all my gear upgraded, it was about time I considered fighting Providence. And to do that, I'd need to fight the Profaned Guardians. Losing to the Profaned Guardians was to be expected given my terrible arena, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really feel like making a big arena in that moment, so I decided to cheat sheet it. Looking back, I really should have done it legitimately, or at least part of it legitimately, but like, It's not that it would have been hard, just time consuming. Now that we have a proper arena, let's give the Profaned trio another go, shall we? Yep, all they need is a good arena. I didn't have any specific weapons or other upgrades in mind for Providence, so I started my first attempt right away, without potions. Not the worst for a first attempt. Admittedly though, my weapons were very subpar for Providence, so I grinded out Moonlord to try and get some more of his drops. The Star Wrath will work well. Unfortunately, with all my gear just about as good as it could get, it would all come down to skill. That which I lack. The Guardian's phase is just about the worst part of the fight, having to avoid Provy's cocoon attacks as well as the Guardians themselves. Luckily in the next update this phase is going to be different. One can only hope it will be different in a good way. Providence is dead. Didn't take as many attempts as I thought it would, but admittedly am I here, it's mostly on tier at this point. We don't gain too much from the kill, but it's nice to have options available, you know? None of her weapons are usable except for her yo-yo, which isn't all that great with my setup, although the Blazing Core accessory is neat. On top of providing some damage reduction, it also spawns a miniature sun when I get hit, so it's usable. Now, it's Sentinel's time! I started off with Stormweaver because I knew it would be pretty easy. Well, I thought it would be pretty easy. Okay, scratch that, Stormweaver is terrible and I really should have known that. I know I wasn't moving optimally, but sometimes things like this happen, and like, how are you supposed to dodge that? I believe I struggled on Stormweaver. And we literally don't get anything good from them. Perfect! Next was Cygnus, but if you fought Cygnus before, you won't be surprised that I beat it first try. Luckily, he gave us the Cosmo Lamp, which is obviously short for Cosmic Lamp, so I can use it. Though without many summon slots, it's not going to be doing much. Now for the final Sentinel, the one I fear the most, Ceaseless Void. And with his changes in the 1.5 update, it's even more menacing than before. This fight is sort of a damage check. That being, it'll be way easier overall if you have a high damage output. And I don't have a high damage output. Also, this was one of my first times fighting the new Ceaseless Void, so I was a bit clueless on what strategy worked best. I'd come to a conclusion. Doing Void now simply wasn't the play. We need some better weaponry to take it on, and the only reason we need to beat it anyway is to craft the Devourer of Gods summoning item, which we don't even need yet. So, instead of fighting Void, we fight Poltergeist. Luckily, alike to Void, it doesn't enrage outside of the dungeon, so we can fight them in our Hell Arena. Though Poltergeist does move faster if there are less blocks around them. I was right in assuming this mini enrage wouldn't be too bad, but the main problem with the fight is the dashes. I couldn't dodge the dashes very well at all, especially when the clone came out, as the dashes are predictive. By that, I mean that they factor your movement speed and trajectory into where they dash, and attempt to dash where you will be, rather than where you are the moment they dash. Hope that makes sense. I can say it in a simpler way though. Dash second or die. May have taken a while, but we won. But what did we gain from it? Oh, you'll see. But first, let's observe his treasure bag. As per usual in this challenge, the weapons are all unusable, and even the Brilliant Affliction accessory can't be used. The Adrenaline upgrade is always welcome, but that's not the best part. Ruinous Souls. What can we use them for? 2 armor sets we can't use, that's not good. Now, how about weapons? What weapons can we craft with them? Oh, not much, just an entire tier's worth of weaponry, strong enough to take on the Devourer of Gods himself. Pretty cool, right? Granted, we do need to visit the Abyss to get the materials to craft the things, and we don't have much in the way of preventing breath loss, but all we really need is some luminal. At first, I only made the Crescent Moon and Galileo Gladius, since my setup was melee oriented. Although I did now have a much more consistent damage output, it really wasn't making the fight all that much easier. So, I branched out into weaponry from the other classes. For Mage, we have the Stratosphere, and for Summoner, we have the Sirius. The Stratosphere ended up being especially helpful, as if I stacked them all on Void when he went into his, quote-unquote, suck phase, it led to a massive amount of damage being dealt, while staying at a distance. Wow, cool! That took forever. But it was necessary. Now we have all the components to craft the Cosmic Worm. The end is in sight. 4 more bosses to beat, 4 more challenges to overcome. But we've been here before. We've overcome hardships, we've gotten further than anyone could ever expect us to get. And because of that, I know that we can keep moving forward. The worm, the dragon, the mechs, the witch. Descend like a star and strike like a supernova.